Good morning, Mr. Patil. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? Now we are live on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and the message has been sent on WhatsApp as well. So we're ready. Gotten better at time, right? Management of time, don't you think? You're good. That's very nice to hear. I hope you can hear me properly. Uh, I hope my audio is alright, Mr. Patil. So, can LinkedIn be monetized? I don't know. Audio is okay. It's uh, li- else you can. I didn't understand that. Probably it's a typo of some sort. I don't know if LinkedIn can be monetized, Mr. Patil. I am not much into the content game, you know. Monetization. YouTube's monetization, by the way, is also not that great. Uh, Very less money. I was thinking, how are you thinking to grow? Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. I think word of mouth should be okay. Yesterday say we ought to think how to grow. Yeah, I was just thinking that'd be nice to grow this because at this moment, we have somewhere around 10 people listening at any moment. Thinker's frequency. I just thought it would be nice if that number starts growing because that number was essentially almost when we began as well. So it was almost there. Uh, Sometimes less, sometimes more, but more or less in that range as well, right? So I was just thinking how nice it would be if we could just find a way to. Oh, my LinkedIn audio is mute? We're ready. No, no, it's okay. So I was just thinking how nice it would be if that number somehow could grow because I have a lot of reach on LinkedIn. I have like almost 45,000 followers on LinkedIn. And my writings, they get a lot of reach as well. It used to be way higher. My reach on LinkedIn used to be extremely high, but it's come down because of some censorship issues. However, it's still significant, right? But the stream isn't that much. My stream barely gets any impressions, right? So I was just hoping how to, it would be nice to grow this thing, right? So that the number of people, because I want to stop writing articles. Uh, no, I post regularly about, I mean, I go live on LinkedIn, so it goes on my profile. So I just want to stop with the articles because they take a lot of time and they take some effort. Now all that effort I want to condense here, so I can just focus on work, right? Instead of writing long articles, which people love, which I write, which I like, but it takes time. So I wanted to replace my articles with this thing because this is also very nice, right? The whole uh, aspect of getting together every morning, that's much more social than shooting content or shooting articles or literary pieces on the internet, right? And seeing people interact with it later. This is better. So I think I'm audible and we should begin. It's 8-7. I'm audible on YouTube, I'm audible on LinkedIn. So we should begin the show that we deserve, right? Bum 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 bum. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, well, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, we've got to follow tradition, right? You know the tradition? You know the tradition of the simultaneous sip. The beautiful, sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug or glass or tank, a chalice or stein, a canteen jug or flask or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having water with black pepper in it. It's very good for me. I love it. I love it. And here we go. Oh my god, beautiful. Healing. Sublime. Let's take it another time. Lovely. Lovely. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says, don't you? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. By the way, I was just looking at, I was just scrolling YouTube, I guess, a few days ago. I forgot to tell you. So I saw this Auntie G doing a live stream. And I'm like, wow, she's doing it. And she was wearing some skimpy clothes. A very traditional, like a tier 2 village kind of a setting. And her whole live stream, so I watched it for like 2-3 minutes. I was like, आइए शेयर करिए लाइक करिए शेयर करिए लाइक करिए शेयर करिए लाइक करिए शेयर करिए and that was what it was. And some people were also giving her money. And I'm like, whoa, she's killing it, man. And her whole stream for the 3 minutes I was there was like kariye, drop kariye, like kariye, share kariye. And I was like, man, this is good. I should also be doing this, right? So when I come to Thinker's Frequency, I should be like kariye, share kariye. And then somebody gives me money. Thank you, ABCD, whatever your name is, Avnish. Like kariye, share if that somebody else gives me money. Oh, thank you. Let's say Mr. Patil. Like kariye, share kariye. And that was the whole stream, man. It was amazing. It was just eye-opening for me, So you might expect me to be doing that kind of thing in Thinker's Frequency from there on, right? Mr. Tushar Tiwari gives me some money, and I'm like, oh, thank you, Mr. Tushar Tiwari. Now like kariye, share kariye. It's like, and she had like, now we have like 3 people right now on YouTube, 3 people on LinkedIn. Now this number is gonna go up to 5, 6 on both sides, maybe 10, right? The peak we hit was like 23 people, right? That was the highlight of me. And her stream was being watched by like 435 people or something. And I was one of the 435 people who was watching it. So clearly something is working and we are not doing it right? So moving on. Retail inflation at 6-year low. WPI turns negative. Retail inflation is at real low, 6-year low. It's basically hitting like 2.1%. CPI declines to 2.1%, Consumer Price Index, which means mehengai is going down. The whole price index has become WPI. It's called wholesale price index. It's become deflationary. It's become negative. Okay, so this is temporary. But the CPI isn't temporary. CPI's graph is like this, right? What does that mean? That means mehengai is going down, inflation is going down, which means RBI will be looking at yet another rate cut. Because if inflation is in control, So India's target of inflation was 4%. So if inflation is like 2.1% and it's looking to go even lower, right? So that means essentially what you're basically looking at is that the country can be focused on growing. And what can the country do to grow? It can reduce the inflation rates. The interest rates. So interest rates are gonna come down. More lending is gonna happen. More supply is gonna happen of cash. So this is great news. This is just extraordinary news, right? Retail inflation going uh, this low, and there's already a rate cut which has happened. So another rate cut, and you're gonna be looking at further growth. Is Indian economy flywheel has it finally started turning? That is the question we are basically asking ourselves right now. Speaking of questions, I have something very important to share. GCCs to get full support, says Madam Nirmala Sitharaman. GCCs is Global Capability Centers, Global Capacity Centers. They're essentially back offices of companies, right? They are looking at setting up in India. Now, what people are saying is, what the government is saying is, please look at tier 2, tier 3 cities for setting up GCCs, and we'll give you favorable treatment, we'll give you tax rebates, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. Why do you think this is happening? Why does government want to make GCCs come to tier 2, tier 3 cities? Why do you think? Just take a second. Take a second. Now I'm going to tell you something which is very interesting. So there's something called Malthusian trap. Okay? What Malthusian trap says is that the pace of technological introduction or advancement in a particular geography doesn't lead to the quality of life improvement that you would hope, because it's accompanied with a corresponding rise in population. I'll do it again. The pace of technology increase introduction doesn't lead to quality of life improvement as estimated, because it's accompanied with a corresponding rise in population. That means, let's say Delhi Metro happens. Delhi gets its metro. What happens with Delhi Metro is that more people come to Delhi because of Delhi Metro. Then Delhi Metro gets crowded and the road gets crowded. That's Malthusian trap. So what is the solution to the Malthusian trap? Malthusian trap solution is to distribute the development. Okay? So instead of focusing on one city or focusing on a few cities, just distribute whatever you can. Once you distribute opportunities, people don't have to migrate, people don't have to travel. The population rise doesn't accumulate in some centers. The quality of life stays intact, because whatever rise happens isn't offset by a rise in population. How interesting is that? Isn't that fascinating? So Mr. Sridhar Vembu, sir, huge respect. He's a personal hero. He is the founder of Zoho, and what he's done is instead of having huge central offices, he's distributed his offices in small cities, right? Small offices, small cities, capacity centers, you can call them. In like one of Zoho's big offices, like decent offices, is in Tenkasi, which is a small village. So what happens is, when you set up an office in a, let's say, village, entire economy starts tier 2 pitch is very long vision, says Mr. Tushar Tiwari, and it's very beautiful vision, very important. So when you set up an office in, let's say, a new place, okay, a lot of economy starts happening around that offices. So we set up our office in a society years ago in 2014, okay. Our first office, very small place in a residential society, and when we set up that office, suddenly all the people that came to our office, like 10 people, they used to go out and buy some biscuits and stuff, right? So suddenly people started seeing a lot of activity in the shops just because of our 10 people. Then some Maggie guy started coming to our office and said, we'll supply you Maggie and coffee and stuff like that. So we started giving business to them, and so on and so forth, right? So when an office sets up in a small locality or in a small village or tier 2 city or tier 1 city, it leads to great outcomes for that city. And then all those people in that city don't have to come to Delhi or don't have to come to Mumbai, Bangalore, whatever, and choke those already choked cities, right? So that's called Malthusian trap, which is what these people are trying to avoid, because GCCs are gonna come, right? And if GCCs come and provide such economic stimulus, right now they are at $66 billion GDP contribution. They will be looking at something around $1.5 billion of GDP contribution, $150 billion. So they are basically looking at 150 to $200 billion worth GDP contribution. Indian IT is $280 billion. So GCC is going to be 150 to $200 billion. And if all that comes to Bangalore, to Delhi, to Mumbai, we'll just get screwed, right? Or let's say Chennai, where it's happening. So the government is requesting these people to think about tier 2, tier 1 cities so that those cities could grow. Malthusian trap, remember where you heard it. So Jane Street has basically deposited 4,800, $500 million, more than $500 million in an escrow amount. So that's a very rare sort of cooperation with SEBI. So they are cooperating, and because now why would they deposit 4,800 crores? Because they made like $4 billion in 2 years. $4 billion is 32,000 crores, right? Over 32,000 crores. So that's just, if they made 32,000 crores in 2 years, to be in the good books of SEBI, it makes sense for them to cooperate, but they are cooperating. So at this moment, the derivatives market is looking more money to be made in India by JS, says Mr. Tiwari, and you're right. So they don't want a gravy train to stop. And 4,800 crore for Jane Street is actually a small price to pay, considering what they've been doing. Speaking of derivatives market, Bitcoin is also looking at derivatives market in India. So people like CoinSwitch and other players, they are essentially looking at providing derivatives services. So what happens is you can either buy Bitcoin or sell Bitcoin, right? But what if you wanted to buy a futures on Bitcoin? What if you wanted to buy a call options on Bitcoin? That is very complicated. But that is also very seemingly lucrative. Even in stocks, future and options is very lucrative, right? People consider it very lucrative because what happens is you can basically trade derivatives at a margin. So let's say you have 100 rupees, you can take a margin of 5x or 10x, and then that is debt, right? So you take that debt and then bet, and if the stock goes up, you can make a 10x return. So that's the lure of FNO, which is why like 1 lakh crore, almost $12 billion worth losses have been made by FNO traders because it's very risky. So you took margin to make a trade and then it didn't go that way. So you lose 10x money. So you stand to gain 10x money, but if you're trading intraday and something happens and it goes down, so you lose 10x money. And that but that's gonna be happening with Bitcoin as well. These people are trying to bring derivatives as far as Bitcoin is considered. Now people are often confused about what derivatives are. So I'm just gonna give you a primer, which is very basic, but it's just gonna give you an idea. Otherwise, it's very complicated. So call option. What does call option mean? There's something called futures. There's something called options. So let's talk about call options. Call options mean that you are betting on something going up. Okay. So you can buy a call option. That means that you want something to go up. You can sell a call option. That means that you're wishing for something to go down. You can buy a put option. Put option is short. So if you buy a put option, you're shorting something. You could sell a put option, which means uh, you are basically looking at that stock going up. Futures is essentially you uh, buying something at a future price. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember, let's say rice is 100 rupees and you think you don't want to deal with market volatility. What you want to do is talk to the vendor and say, I'll buy your rice 6 months later at 110, no matter what the market price is back at that time. So that is called future. So call, put, future. You get it? That is how this particular thing works overall. So, I that was just for an idea so that you know what these people are talking about when they say call, they say put, they say future, they say derivatives, and so on and so forth, right? So Chris Capital is looking at buying Theobroma. Uh, Theobroma is that cake chain. So that's gonna be getting bought by Chris Capital, a private equity player, is buying it. Essentially, two sisters, Masman sisters, Tina and another ma'am. These two ladies started Theobroma 2 decades ago. Okay, and they they built a very phenomenal business, beautiful business. They built it, uh, very traditional style with sheer grit, and they've made a great name for themselves. And right now they are at essentially 500 550 crore kind of a revenue. So they are getting bought at a 2,500 crore uh, valuation. That means they are getting a revenue multiple of 5. They were hoping for a 3,000 crore valuation, but they couldn't get it. So it's about 2,500 crore valuation, 5 revenue multiple, not bad, I guess. And they have margins of about 100 crores. So basically 25 to is price to earnings, which is fine, I guess. And the promoters are gonna keep 10% share. So Masman sisters, I hope I'm pronouncing their name right. They're gonna keep 10% share in Theobroma. Yet another activity in this particular game, right? The QSR game, which is pretty heated up right now. So Mr. Jaishankar has met Wang Yi. I hope I'm not pronouncing it wrong. Wang or Wang Yi. Basically his Chinese counterpart. So a lot of talks. I told you that this is going to be a very important meeting, and it's underway. So let's see what happens. A lot of important things have been raised. Nothing concrete as of now that's coming out, but let's see. Moving on. 10 old thermal power plants identified for nuclear power conversion. So, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know how we talked about nuclear power plants and the as prospect of nuclear power plants, right? So, if you are looking at nuclear power plants, setting up new ones is obviously very, very difficult. So, what the government is taking a look at is the old and retiring thermal power plants and then repurposing them as nuclear power plants. So, power plants? So, what happens with that is that you don't have to deal with land acquisition troubles, you don't have to deal with the green tribunal troubles, you don't have to deal with all sorts of approvals and so on and so forth. Real estate is ready, facility is ready. All you got to do is repurpose it into a nuclear play, right? Which obviously makes a lot of sense because at this moment, India's nuclear power supply is very low. So I'll just tell you the number. At this moment, the nuclear power play currently installed nuclear power capacity is about 9 gigawatts, and it has to be 100 gigawatts by 2047. So at the moment it's 8.99. It's got to be 100 gigawatts. So they are looking at how many years do we have? 20 years. In 20 years they are looking at 100, 9 to 100. That's basically 11 times, right? So they're like 11 times in 20 years. So that's just a very, very ambitious target. and that needs to have very, very strong moves. So it's one of these moves. They're looking at 10 of such plants, and God knows how much time it's going to take for them to have them repurpose and begin, but it's a start. Speaking of renewable power, which is nuclear, non fossil fuel energy is 50% of total power capacity. So India had set up this target for 2030, where it said that it's going to have 50% of its total capacity coming from renewable sources. That has already happened 5 years earlier. So we basically met our targets, and we've exceeded our targets actually. Non-fossil fuel based energy currently contributes half of India's total installed power generation capacity at 242 gigawatts. So this contains a lot of hydropower, some solar, and so on and so forth. So total power capacity of this country is at 450 gigawatts, out of which 250, almost 250, is coming from. This is amazing. How do you feel about this? Like 5 years early. So these green goals, essentially, which they were talking about, which they wanted, they've met them, right? They've met them and actually far exceeded them. How awesome is that? That's pretty good news. Moving on. Uh, Speaking of so much of actioning happening in the renewable play, the refining capacity has not risen. The oil refining capacity has just risen 5% in 7 years. So when it was supposed to rise like 69%. So companies like IOCL, HPCL, BPCL, and so on and so forth, right? They have not been able to grow themselves as much as we thought they would. And that's a pretty, you know, sort of an underwhelming thing. So now you put these two news items in conjunction. What do you think? A lot of action as far as climate oriented energy is considered, a lot of action as far as renewable is considered, that you met your goals 5 years early. And that particular thing essentially derailed the oil refinery momentum, which is logical, right? Which is absolutely logical. So that is okay. Moving on. US trade talks are moving fast, says Mr. Piyush Goyal. Speaking of US trade, uh, you know, a lot of action as far as farm sector is considered was happening, right? Whether we are gonna let US farm produce come to India, whether we're gonna let the US dairy produce come to India. There was news that India is probably ceding the animal feed stock supply from US. So we're gonna allow that. India didn't want farm supplies to be hurt by US because Indian farm sector is very stressed, is a very stressed sector where people don't make a lot of money, and small farmers, they are always perpetually stressed and very, very low income, right? And a lot of people get employed by the farm sector in India even now. So India is even now pretty much an agrarian economy, like huge, less GDP contribution of agriculture now. I guess it's in 20% or something, but it hires 35% of people. If I'm not wrong with my numbers, I maybe am because these numbers are old from my memory, but that's the contribution of the farm economy in India, right? And SBI has done a research that says that if you let the dairy supplies come from US, the total loss for the farmers, Indian farmers, would be at 1 lakh crore. That's $12 billion. So how they've calculated is that they say 15% decline in milk prices will spur demand to a total of 14 million tons, while supply will decline to 11 million tons. The gap of around 25 million tons will be fulfilled by imports. So when imports happen, prices will decrease because of rise of the supply. When prices decrease, a lot of uh, you know the dairy farm guys will go out of the market. The Indian local guys will go out of the market, So the total quantum of the market that will be left for the imports will be 25 million tons, and that will lead to losses of 1 lakh crore to dairy farmers, 10, 12 to 14 billion dollars. So that's their calculation. They say, it's a sad thing, and India must do everything in their power to protect, to stop this from happening. Speaking of stopping something from happening, India is at a trade gap with 7 FTA partners. 7 FTA partners are ASEAN. ASEAN are all those Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and all of these people. There's SAFTA, South Asian FTA. There's Japan, South Korea, Mauritius, UAE, Australia, EFTA. So basically, apart from Mauritius, and we are and yeah, we are basically at a deficit with everybody. You know where India has a positive trade surplus situation? Can you guess which country has a positive trade surplus situation with India? I mean, where India makes money in net. Do you know? Can you think of something? Just guess. Just make a guess. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll take a sip till then. Yeah, I heard you. You're right. USA, Mr. Patel. Correcto. USA. India closes gap in Russia. Russia. I am not sure, Mr. Tiwari. India imports a lot of energy from Russia, crude, a lot of energy. I think it would be very difficult. It will be very surprising if India has a trade surplus with Russia. Let me see. India trade surplus with Russia. Mm-hmm. 68 billion. No, no, no. India has a trade deficit of $43 billion with Russia. I told you, because wherever we import energy from, uh, we can never have a surplus with that country, because India is an import dependent country and the most we import is energy. So we cannot be having a trade surplus with Russia. So no, but USA is right, Mr. Patel. You got that. Moving on, Viceroy, the short seller firm, which had like a fuss kind of a bomb, a damn squib on Vedanta, is crying, while Vedanta is happy. Vedanta just stock fell 8%, then recovered, and nothing happened for Viceroy. So Viceroy wanted to be Hindenburg, and they wanted to do what Hindenburg did to Adani, but that didn't happen with Vedanta, because when I read their report, it was just nothing. It was a nothing burger. India closes gap in internet speed at 26th rank. So India is ranked 26th as far as internet speed is considered. China's speed, China is at 8th rank, is at 207 Mbps. India is at 136. US is at 176. So China has higher internet speed than US, but India is pretty close, and we are also one of the highest data consuming nations. So we are bigger than China when it comes to data consumption. 29, GB per user per month, and is China, and we are at 32. So we consume more data. Our data is slightly slower, but whatever we consume is not really productive internet consumption. You know that? Like India has an average user time of smartphones at somewhere around 6.5 hours, 7 hours, and most of it is entertainment. Only 1.5 hours of it is utilitarian or even educational. It's like another 30-40 minutes, and rest is all just total BS, right? So while telecom is doing great, while telecom has been a great enabler, we got to do something about this. China's TikTok is very different from TikTok everywhere else. So in China, the TikTok they inspire people for science and business and so on and so forth. Say people who've been in both countries, US and China. But India, all the internet that we get, the content that we get, the algorithm that we get is mostly uh, non-utilitarian, or let's say absolutely depraved. Moving on, but regardless of that, we've got the cheapest data, uh, one of the cheapest data countries in the world, 8 cents per GB when it's $2.5 per GB in US. So cheapest data country, good speed, uh, and highest data consumption. So that's huge, right? That's pretty huge. Anyway, moving on. India to try E5 trains before E10 rollout. So India and Japan have been tying up for railways, if you remember, the Mumbai Ahmedabad bullet train thing. So E5 train from Japan is gonna start running. It's gonna run earlier, and then E10 will start at 2030, which means E10 train will be tried out in Japan and India at the same time. So India will be basically testing that train at the same time as Japan. How awesome is that? That's pretty awesome, right? Moving on. GCC, a lot of action in GCC, which I've already told you about. We need jobs. We need jobs. So a lot of job creation opportunities exists as far as this particular thing is considered, right? The GCC play. Moving on. Buyers keep hands off gold. Buyers are not buying gold anymore. Do you know why? Can you think of why? Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember why. Why do you think sales plunge 60% year on year in June as what? So why do you think this is happening? It's not a surprise, right? We know about this. We know about this. Because the prices have been rising, right? Prices have been rising. And in fact, Indians are basically using the gold they have to take loans. So they're not taking more loans as far as gold, they're not buying more gold right now because the prices are so high. Silver is also high, gold is also high. And they're waiting for the prices to stop, to cool down a little. July is not that month. Let's see what month is that. And when the prices start cooling down is when we will see this whole thing down. And when do you think gold prices will come down? Gold prices will come down after Russia and Ukraine war settles. If that settles. Do you think Russia and Ukraine war will get settled? Because right now it is showing no signs of stopping. Russia is going on a spree. It says we've suffered enough. And Mr. Trump doesn't have any leverage against Russia. So Mr. Trump says that we're going to charge tariffs, we're going to sanction you, and so on and so forth. But the truth is, US has no sanctions left to hurt Russia with. Whatever sanctions play they had, they've already used that card. So it's used up. Now what they're trying to do is sending supplies, arms supplies to Ukraine, which has also proven to not work that much because Russia has proven to be very, very strong. So maybe what we are looking at is Russia just going for the kill as far as Ukraine is concerned. They're going to take over Ukraine. They want to. And that could be a long drawn process. Till that is settled, if that is settled. So Mr. Trump has said you have a 50-day window period to sort this out. Otherwise, there'll be problems. He's threatening. If that gets solved, that's when you'll see gold prices coming down. Because gold is a hedge against geopolitical risks, right? So if geopolitical risks stabilize, gold will stabilize for a while, right? Moving on, Hero Motor to enter international new markets. Now, Hero Motorcorp is looking at new international markets. Why? Why do you think Hero Motorcorp is looking at new international markets? You know it. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency, you know it. You know it. Why do you think this is happening? Let's figure it out. Huh? Why do you think Hero is looking at international markets? Because Hero's domestic market is taking a real toll, right, on the company. You remember the ABS locking thing? Where the government mandated ABS in all bikes, even once below 150cc. That is Hero's market, right? Prices of those bikes will get stretched. There'll be margin pressure on the company. it'll be a trouble situation, right? And it's all already its market share is coming down. It used to be number one. It's no longer number one. It's probably number three, I guess, number two or number three. Uh, Sales of entry level bikes is not moving up in India. Premiumization, Hero has failed at that. So Hero is looking at tough times. So to offset this particular slowdown in domestic market, Hero was bound to go international, and it'll basically new international markets. How does that sound? We know why things happen, right? You know why things happen even before they can happen. So that's the beauty of what we do here every day. Moving on, I won't talk about the Air India thing because it makes me sad, and because I hate big corporations so much. So let's not talk about that at all, right? But there are some updates on that. If you want, please take them elsewhere. Office market is hitting a real rush hour. There's a lot of activity as far as the office leasing market is considered, which is a very good sign. And you know why this is happening? Just to, just take a guess, and just know that we've talked about this 5 minutes ago. Why do you think this is happening? Huh? Can you guess why this is happening? Yes, you're right. I heard you. I heard you. The GCC play. So the GCC play is picking up, and which is leading to a lot of office activity. Companies coming in as back-end DC, back-end offices. You're correct, Mr. Patil. You're right. You're 100% right. Moving on. China's June exports beat forecast. So Chinese exports have beat forecast for June. Can you guess why? We've discussed this a lot. Can you guess why? This is about the incoming tariffs. This is about the change in tariff situation. The incoming change in tariff situation, the cooling off of tariffs, and so on and so forth. When tariffs were announced, front loading. Mr. Patil, you're right. You are right. Exports climbing 5.8% year on year, surpassing 5% forecast. Most of it was front loading, right? That's awesome. Imports rise 1%, 0.3%. So that's we know why these things happen, right? We understand why things are happening. Moving on, Ola Electric's stock has surged on Dalal Street. So everybody who's buying Ola Electric stock right now deserves something, and I call it Pradhan Mantri Bahaduri Puraskar. They all deserve a Pradhan Mantri Bahaduri Puraskar if they buy Ola stock right now. So Ola stock has decreased its sales projections. It's basically, whatever it used to sell earlier, it sells basically half of it. And it says that now the industry is looking at consolidation phase, and we'll be entering a consolidation phase, and we'll be looking at profitability. So Mr. Bhavish Agrawal, whatever trick he can pull off, he pulls it off to talk to the investor market. And right now the pitch is that we are going to be profitable, right? So at this moment, the quarter-on-quarter loss is at 428 crores. So he says that we've narrowed our losses quarter on quarter from 870 crores to 428 crores. And he says it's a turnaround, shop operational turnaround. Gross margins hit 25%. It says its operations revenue grew from 600 crores to 828 crores, even though it was half of what it was year on year. So month on month it's rising, but half year on year. So he says we're turning around and we're going to be profitable. So whatever these people say, I'll advise a lot of salt, not a pinch of salt, like a full tablespoon of salt, or let's say a mug of salt, and whoever is buying this stock, they deserve a Bahaduri Puraskar. But honestly, it's just amazing how Mr. Bhavish Agrawal manages whatever he manages, right? Like continuous fundraising, Ola, then Ola Electric, then Krutrim, and then new things. Ola Electric said they'll make cars. So it's just, you gotta give him, man. It's unbelievable. Anyway, moving forward, I'm just saying, I'm just seeing if we are missing anything. So no, we're not missing anything. Derivative markets are hurt, obviously, because Jane Street. Uh, okay, fintech majors are counting on co-branded cards in returns play. So fintech companies like Google Play, PhonePe, and so on and so forth, they are looking at co-branded cards in the for their company. Now these UPI operators are looking at co-branded cards. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency, can you guess why? Now we've discussed this many times. New viewers might not know, but we've discussed this a lot, that UPI, the merchant play, has zero MDR, right? You can't charge any commission as far as UPI transactions is considered, and the incentives were taken away by the government. So basically, people operating the UPI service, they were just doing it as a customer acquisition and customer retention tool, right? Now, what can you do with that? What can you do with that? What you do with that is you use that base to try and sell them something. No, no, no. They can't leverage the data to judge consumer spending, Mr. Patil. No. They can use their customer base to sell cards and co-branded cards with banks, let's say. So you have banks, they're going to brand with them, they're going to be their marketing sales partners, and then they're going to sell those cards to customers, earn some commission money. So that's the business model that these people are looking at, which sounds fair, right? Which sounds fair. It sounds logical. However, it is the why of it is clear to us, because we've been following this story for the last 50 days. This is the 51st day. So it doesn't surprise us at all, right? Which is great, which is the agenda, right? But the whole aspect of data, is overrated. So I wrote a post on Uber and Ola and why cab hailing was a bad idea because of the whole per capita thing. And then some wise person came and said, you have no idea. You know how much data Uber sits on? Data is gold. Data is oil. They're gonna sell that data. Data is very valuable. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? What's selling that data? Who's gonna buy that data? Are you talking about a market research product where they're going to sell intelligence on how people are moving? What data? Data cannot be sold like that. The data has to be used for something. So let's say if Uber had a lot of right data, if it had utilized that right data to make a self-car tech, that would have been valuable. But you can't just expect somebody to have data. You can sit on a lot of data, but monetization of a data is what you ought to think about. So that was my argument with ShareChat as well, right? So people used to say like ShareChat makes a lot of data. And like, what data? Who's gonna buy that data? All that tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, poor people using their app. Who's gonna pay for that data? How you monetize that data is very important. So no, it's not data. It's basically that customer base which can be used for buying or selling future products, right? Moving on, HCL's quarterly reports are out. Their revenue forecast is not as bad as TCS. It's not gonna decline. However, its growth rate has minimized 3%. So viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that IT sector is in great stress, and it's supposed to remain in that great stress as we talked about. And HCL, while posting much better updates than TCS, is still not looking that green. So strong order book, revenue outlook, First quarter net drops 10% year on year. Revenue is up 8%. Net drops 10%. So unlike TCS, which had a net rise because of efficiencies, HCL couldn't have a net rise because one client went bankrupt. Some problems started happening in the ramping up of a project. So their net fell 10%, but revenue was up 8%. And now they're giving a quarterly guidance. They've reduced it to 3 to 5% amidst margin pressures. So IT is what IT was, and we talked about it very, very deeply. So, speaking of something very deep, Sun Pharma is debuting a drug for alopecia. Alopecia is baldness. The hair. It's a very, very sad thing that just hairs just the follicles just die across the skin. So that's called alopecia, and they're debuting that drug in US. So I'm gonna wish them a lot of luck. The world needs it. PC penetration doubles post COVID to 15% Indian households. You know what? India has been one of the nations which has been a smartphone first nation. So Bill Gates, when he began Microsoft, with Mr. Paul Allen, Sir Paul Allen, great respect. So he came out with the vision of a computer at every desk, right, in 1980s. And then that basically happened, right? Computer at every desk. However, India came late to the computer revolution, right? But India, because of internet and because of whatever technology we had, computers went slowly in India, right? However, when it came to smartphones, the smartphone tech, suddenly internet expansion, cost, everything aligned, and we became a nation which was a smartphone first nation. So a lot of people know how to operate a smartphone well, but they don't know how to operate a computer well. Even though computer is the introductory technology as far as compute is considered, right? So that's an interesting play as far as India is considered. Very interesting. AI is obviously a consistent news maker. You know what? Grok had essentially come out with an update where it exceeded every, like it said that it's smarter than postgraduates and PhDs of all sciences, of all blocks. And it said that we're soon going to be reaching, or we've already reached a place where all the knowledge of the internet has been used by AI. So now it's gonna feed on new intelligence, which it'll create itself. Does that scare you? So if it has used all the knowledge that exists on the internet, it'll basically create knowledge. One way is hallucinating, or one way it's gonna find out. So Grok claims to be an AI product which will be an inventor of sorts. Okay, but there was one little problem with Grok, that it liked Hitler too much. so, so Grok really liked Hitler, you know. Now, when it liked Hitler, obviously the Jewish community was probably had a problem, and so they had to like stop Grok and just establish some guardrails as far as liking for Hitler is considered. Now the question is, if you can stop Grok, you can set guardrails against Hitler. Okay, you will be able to set guardrails in every particular thing, right? Let's say Grok says something about mental health, right? And the psychologist community, the expert community of psychologists and clinical psychiatrists and the whole mental health community of doctors and experts says that this is wrong. Then you'll have to establish guardrails on that. Then let's say it says something about medical fraternity, right? It says something bad about vaccines, or it says something bad about COVID vaccines in particular. It says something bad about the GLP drugs, the semaglutide. So medical community says no, this is wrong. So you establish guardrail there. It established guardrails there. What happens to the AI knowledge itself? Will it be able to work as intended? That's a very good thought question, right? So a lot of companies are closing in on Google as far as AI is considered. You know the browser play of ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT was starting a browser that was supposed to screw Google because Google had the grip on the internet. It had 93% of the entire search market. Essentially, all the internet was Google and Facebook, right? And these two people are losing their grip on the internet. First, through search, because less people are using search, and then through browsers as well, because ChatGPT is opening up its own browser. Now, Perplexity is also opening its own browser. So that's going on. A lot of VC funding is happening as far as AI is considered, but all of that is very, very concentrated towards few startups. You know, like Mistral is a French company, it's raising $1 billion, and a lot of big companies like like Scale is getting acquired for $14 billion, and $2 billion has been raised by somebody called Meera Maruti, who was founding team of OpenAI. So a lot of big money is going, but to few startups. So VC funding is getting concentrated as far as its AI bets are considered, right? Now that is also not such a great news, by the way. That's also not such a great news. But you know what a great news is? That there is a new defense fund in town. 1000 crore defense and aerospace VC fund is being started up by an investment banker, which means that there's gonna be a serious amount of VC activity focused on defense. This is probably one of the first defense focused VC funds, and that's awesome, right? India needs a lot of defense, because we discussed how wars are essentially just counting drones now. Count the number of drones people have. Whoever has better drones and more number of drones wins. And drones are like nuclear bombs, but without a limiting factor. So let's say you make a nuclear bomb, then there's no incentive for you to make another nuclear bomb or a better nuclear bomb, because a nuclear bomb is a nuclear bomb, right? It ends everything. It's a deterrent. You can't even use it. So nuclear bomb warfare is just for deterrence, right? Because you're never gonna use it. But drone, you can keep using it and you can keep improving it. And you can just keep improving it without any limiting factor. So it can go like an exponential graph. And when it goes like an exponential graph, it can be more effective, more lethal. It can be more, effective. It's not just a deterrent, but something that you can use. So it's like a fighter jet in 1930s, right? So the possibility is immense, and everybody just, I would wish all smart minds, I wish I could do it, but I'm tied up with my startups. I wish everybody in India could just start making drones, and that'll be so awesome. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, so don't call me on that. But yeah, that is with drones technology. And with that, we come to the end of the 51st episode of Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. I hope you had a lot of fun. I had great amount of fun today. A lot of things that we had discussed earlier, they're just coming to light now, right? Things we discussed like 30 days ago, that this could happen, or that could happen, or this could happen, and suddenly everything is happening like that. It's so awesome. And, I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow. Same place, same time, hopefully. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, I forgot. Like करें, इसको like करें, share करें, like करें. You know, like that auntie was saying. She was awesome, man. She's a legend. I want to be like that auntie. Forgot to subscribe to her. I'm gonna find her on the internet. Yeah? If you find her, let me know. Send me the link. Bye-bye.